Test. Okay, welcome to the stream. I think everything is working now. I'm not sure though. Let's see if it's working. Yeah, it's working. So, okay, welcome to the stream. Okay, I can hear myself, so it's perfect. Well, if you're new to the channel, and probably everyone is new because this is a new channel. So, what I will do in these streams is I will just make my own analysis of the markets, so of Forex and crypto. And you can ask me questions. If you're watching this later, you can ask questions in the comments. I will respond to it in the next stream, because I will be streaming every single weekday, so Monday till Friday, every single day, I still have to decide which kind of time is perfect for it, because I don't know when most people are active. I think, yeah, now most people are probably active in the Forex communities, because it's the most volume is around this time. And okay, there's still no one. Maybe someone will join the stream, or maybe you're watching this later. So let's just start with the analysis. So I prefer to trade on GBP USD. So let's just pick GBP USD as the first pairing to analyze. And it's a completely empty chart. So I did this on purpose so I can start from scratch. Well, what we can see on the GBP, because I always start on the higher time frame, so this is the weekly time frame, is you can see that there has been a rejection of the weekly high. And what does that mean? Well, you have this high here, this one, and you've rejected it. So as you can see, the price was not able to go beyond the level. And that is, well, that's not a strong sign. So it's possible that it will go beyond the weekly high. So it's still possible that it will do something like this. Maybe look for some liquidity here, for example, and then it will go up. That's a possibility. But it's also possible that it will just reject and now lose this low and go down. So it's kind of waiting for what's going to happen. However, you need to be very alert when you see a rejection of such an important level, because it's a pretty important level. And for the people that don't know, I trade mainly based on price action. So things like support and resistance, things like the trend, the structure, and also the smart money concepts. So liquidity, supply and demand. Everyone calls it differently. I don't even like the term smart money concepts because I think it just sounds ridiculous. But well, that's the term that most people use. So I always start on the weekly, like I said. So this is the weekly analysis, and now you already have an understanding of what's going on at a higher time frame. So you can see there has been a rejection. Now it's basically waiting. I think there's a lot of potential here for a bounce, because this seems to me like a very good demand zone. However, there's also a demand zone over here. And I draw in these demand zone based on one single candle. And there's also liquidity over here. So in this area, there's liquidity that's built up. Let's go to the daily, then we can see something more, because we cannot see so much on the weekly right now. Yeah, I think there's a lot of liquidity here, and you might think, like, why is there liquidity there? Well, basically because you see this, so it's forming a kind of bottom here, a level. And this is where most the support and resistance traders are placing their entries. So if price is going to reach that level, so it's dropping down and going for that level, well, it is possible that it will bounce off the level because the supply or the support and resistance traders are there. But it's also possible that it will search for all the liquidity, all the stop losses that are below the level. Therefore, I can see that there's a lot of liquidity in this zone. And there is, like I just drew in, now we can fine tune it even more. There's also a demand zone over here, which means that there's a lot of buying pressure in this zone. And that basically means liquidity as well. I think people don't understand the term liquidity well enough, because a lot of people think liquidity is just stop losses. Well, that's a part of liquidity, like this. But liquidity is basically just where the money is. So where is the most buying and selling pressure? And there's a lot of buying pressure in this zone as well, because that's why it's called a demand zone. There's a lot of demand, a lot of people willing to buy. All right. What I also see, which is interesting as well, is you also have something called trend line liquidity. So here you can see this kind of trend line forming its way, maybe even till here, like this. And under the trend line is also a lot of trend line liquidity, because that's where the stop losses of the trend line traders are. And we are trying to trade along the big parties like the banks and the institutional funds. And we are not placing our trades based on support and resistance or based on trend lines, because that's what most traders do, and most traders lose money. So we are seeing where their liquidity, where their stop losses, for example, are, and where also the buying and the selling orders of the bigger parties like the banks are. And that's mostly what supply and demand is about. For example, this demand zone basically means that it is very likely that the big investors, the big traders, are placing their entries in this zone. So it's very likely to push the price up. All right. This was the higher time frame. I like to do a higher time frame analysis on the weekly and daily. Sometimes even go to the 4-hourly. I don't think it's that important right now. But we can go to the more of a day trading kind of time frame, like the 1 hour and the 50 minutes, because I'm day trading primarily. I'm not really a swing trader. But some of you might be a swing trader, so I always go through all the time frames. So let's get rid of these, because we're not going to use it anyway. All right. By the way, before we go to the lower time frame, what you also want to see and want to look for is the structure and the trend. So the structure is basically what builds up the trend. So this is, for example, an upward structure, and this is a downward structure. And we're looking, we're looking for the structure at this moment. So at this moment on the daily, you can see an upward structure. And I can draw it in very detailed, but I can also just do something like this. And you can very quickly see that the price is going up. So that's very important, because then you know if you need to place long trades, so if you need to buy, or if you need to sell, which is a short trade. All right, let's go to the 1 hour. Yeah, so the interesting thing is, when on the higher time frame something is going up and you're forming an upward structure, on the lower time frame, like the 1 hour, you can see a downward structure, and that's what you see right now. So you can see that it's going down. And I have a very specific way of drawing in structures. So I do this very quickly. This might not even be correct. It's just basically now about the direction of the market. And I will upload a video probably about how to draw in the structures in detail. Because what I do, for example, is I pick a low like this. Then I wait for it to be broken. And most people call this a break of structure. I call it a loss, because you're losing the level. So then you can clearly see, okay, we have a low, we have a high, we create a new low, and we create a new high as well, then a new low again. So then you can draw it in like this. So then you have a structure forming this. And then you can clearly see that it's a downwards structure. So on the more of a day trading kind of level, we're looking mostly for shorts. You can see that the shorts were respected very well. For example, here you had this possible short, which was filled very well. So, oh no, this is the 1 hour. And this one too, probably somewhere along here. Like, that's what you often see when price is going down, so it's going in a downward structure, all of the supply zones will be respected very well, and the demand zones will just be ignored because the sellers are in control, basically. So the supply zones are respected very well because the structure is going down. And if you're in an upward structure, the demand zones are respected well. So we're not looking for long trades. We're not looking for demand zones because that's not really worth it, because they won't be respected well enough because the structure is going down. All right, another supply zone that I see as well is, well, here is the supply zone, but there's also one here, because one of my one-on-one students, Timon, he sent me a screenshot of this trade, so he probably had something like this. But then I responded like, okay, you're probably going to be stopped out. And he thought like, why? Well, I said like, see what's above your entry, and it's this supply zone. So it's very dangerous to place your entry here, and that's what most people do. They don't look at the other supply zones. But if you see that there's a supply zone above your entry, well, at least place your stop loss above the supply zone. And yeah, it won't be a trade. Oh, I almost kicked away my camera. It won't be a trade with a high risk reward, but yeah, you will probably be stopped out if you have your stop loss like this, because then you're literally in the liquidity of this whole zone. And I don't see any comments. I see some likes. I don't know if the comments just don't work because it's the first time that I ever stream, so probably I'm screwing things up. But we will see in the next stream if it's working or not. Okay. So I would not recommend this trade. And the other thing is when you're going to place this trade, for example, based on this supply zone, well, there's also price action here. So then you also need to zoom in on this zone here. If maybe there's also another entry there, or maybe there's also a supply zone on the 50 minutes or the 5 minutes over there. And then you also need to make sure that you're placing your stop loss above it. All right, so this was the 1 hour. 1 hour is pretty much considered as day trading to me. I like to place my entries on the 50 minutes. So let's go to the 50 minutes now. All right. And this is another interesting kind of principle, because we just saw that the structure was going down. We even drew in the structure, but now we see that on the 50 minutes is creating an upward structure. So I can draw it in again. Let's pick this high first. So this is your first high. You're gaining it. So most people again call it a break of structure. I call it a gain or a loss. So you gain the previous high, you form a low, you form a new high. I would take this as the high. Yeah. Then you have another low, and now you're forming this new high. So it's probably going to be a pullback here, so a new high. Okay, so then you have a structure like this, which means you're going up. So that's kind of like, it can make trading pretty complicated, because on one time frame you have a structure that's going down, and on one time frame you have a structure that's going up. But that's exactly why you should stick to one time frame for picking your entries, because it doesn't really matter if the structure is going downwards on the higher time frame when on the 50 minutes it's going up. Well, then we can place an entry on the 50 minutes, a long trade that's going up, and we still have a very good risk reward. Because let's say and this is just an example, because I cannot give away any trades that I'm placing. That's completely illegal. Like, I cannot call out trades that you should place. So in these streams, I won't ever show you the exact trade that I'm placing, or I won't give you any financial advice. I will only show you possible entries. So let's say you would have an entry, well, maybe here. So, or well, it's kind of, yeah, again, I would never place an entry here. It's just way too aggressive. But let's say you have an entry there. Your stop loss maybe like this. Well, if you look at the supply zones that we saw on the 1 hourly for your take profits, then you can see that you have a very good risk reward of about 5, or even if you do it till here, or maybe even here, well, you can go to 7 or 8. So you can have very good risk rewards, even if you're trading in a downwards moving structure on the higher time frame. So like the structure on the time frame that you're placing your entry is by far the most important. However, you also want to keep in mind what's happening on the higher time frame, because you're not going to be surprised now if price is doing something like this and then going down. So you know that you have to take profit relatively fast, because otherwise you would just be stopped out, because price will go down probably because there's a supply zone and you're trading against the higher time frame structure. And I'm also very curious, by the way, if I'm talking way too fast or if people slightly understand anything that I'm saying, but probably, like, I've put SMC in the title, so the SMC traders will find me. And that's what I've noticed, like people that are into SMC trading and price action trading as well, they already have a lot of knowledge about trading, how to read candles. So I'm not covering all the basic stuff. I'm just talking about the more advanced stuff, because these videos are meant for people that are already trading, okay? So if you're not trading right now and you see this video and you probably don't understand anything that I'm saying, but that's totally fine. Just learn the basics and eventually you'll understand what I'm talking about. Or you can just watch these videos, these live streams, and eventually you'll have a very good understanding of what I'm talking about, because you're getting used to the terminologies that I use. That's how I started trading as well. I watched some live streams from like very small channels as well, with only 20 subscribers, for example, and they would say the most crazy complicated stuff. And by starting way too complicated, you actually learn it pretty fast. All right, so, well, if we look at possible entries for GBP right now, then yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I don't see a single entry. Like, I don't see a long trade here. I don't see a clear demand zone. You could say this is a demand zone, but I don't like it. I don't think it's a good demand zone. And it's based on this candle, by the way. I draw in my demand zones based on one candle. I don't know, could be experience. I don't really know why I don't like it. I think it's just way too aggressive. You're forming this reversal pattern here. So you're reversing from the downward structure that you had on the higher time frame. And then you're placing your entry really aggressively. Well, I think that's a very bad idea. I would like to have my entry somewhere here, like at the most defensive place. But there's no entry here. I don't see any demand zones that are like, yeah, maybe this one. If I zoom in, there's still a space open here, so only this small space is open here. Well, yeah, it could be a good trade, but I just don't like it. I don't think it's going to be a good trade. So sometimes it's just the best idea to not place a trade. If you're not certain about it, then just don't place a trade. However, like those supply zones could be very good trades. But then you're mainly looking at the 1 hourly like this. And the reason for this as well is because there's no supply zone here. This has all been tested already. So there were supply zones here, but like they were already filled by this large wick. So there's probably not too much liquidity in this area. I think there is liquidity above this area because you formed this kind of double top, however you want to call it. I just call it a resistance zone. So you could say, okay, this is a support and resistance zone. And then you know that there's a lot of liquidity above it, but it's pretty high. So if you place your trade here with a stop loss, you're probably going to be fine. But on the 50 minutes, I don't see anything. Like, no. Yeah, these zones, but what I like to do then, that's more of an advanced strategy. So even more advanced. But that's just waiting for the confirmation. So let's say the price drops down to this zone. What you can do then is you can also wait for price to do something like this. And then on the 1 minute, on the very low time frame, you are going to look for an entry. So that's what I do very often. When I'm not sure about the demand zone on the 50 minutes, I just wait for the reaction. And then on the very low time frame, so on the 1 minute, I will find an entry. But that's not recommended for beginners necessarily, because like this is already advanced trading. Doing it like that is very advanced. So I wouldn't recommend it right now, maybe. Okay, I think this was GBP. Yeah, so I'm waiting for these zones to be respected, and then if it bounces off one of these zones, I will look for an entry on the lower time frame. On the 5 or the 1 minute, mostly the 1 minute. All right. Let's go to gold, because I know that many people are trading gold. Gold is probably the most popular trading, like Forex pairing ever. It's not really Forex, by the way. I always understood that it's a commodity, but like gold is supposed to be a commodity, right? But most people call it Forex, so I'm not sure about it. Let's go to the higher time frame as well. Okay, interesting. So what you see is you're building this upward structure. However, you're also rejecting this high. So the same thing as with the GBP. You're rejecting this high, which is a bad sign of the weekly high. So well, it's not too bad right now because you can still gain it. So you can still look for the liquidity over here, or over here, for example, or here. There's lots of liquidity there, and then it might go up with. Yeah, you can see the liquidity as fuel, so it will look for the fuel, and if it has enough fuel and buying power, it will go up. Okay, let's go to the daily. Yeah, so the rejection, basically, it happened very recently, so now we still have to wait for the reaction. So I wouldn't necessarily be very negative right now, because what you very often see is that it's going to look for these zones. So on the swing trading level, I'm not sure where to place your entry on the swing trading level. So let's just go to the day trading time frame. Because like for swing trading, I would either want to see that it's going to first gain this level and then look for a long. Because then you can be positive, then you're going to look for a long trade. Or I want to see that you at least lose this. Yeah, you at least lose this kind of level that's here, so that you are losing this level, going down, then you can look for a short. But then keep in mind that there's a lot of liquidity here, lots of demand zones, so it's also likely to be stopped out. Justin asked me if I have any trades open right now. No, currently not. I can show you which trades I saw the last couple of days. Let's see. I believe it was this one. Yeah, so first of all, I was in this trade, so there was this trade, which was perfectly filled here. Then I took my profits about here, I think. Yeah, based on this zone. So it was probably something like this. So I was not in this big movement. My stop loss was not wide enough anyway, because then my stop loss had to be like here. But still, it was a very good trade. And the other one was, but I missed it, so it was this trade. But I missed this trade. So that's very unfortunate, because this was a very good trade. If you, for example, place your stop loss here, even higher maybe, you could have gone all the way here and you would have a risk reward of 8. So that's crazy. But let's go back to gold right now. And I haven't placed any other trades on gold. All right. Yeah, so you can clearly see it's now testing this level that I drew in, and I drew it in with a reason, obviously, because there's a demand zone over here, and it's also a support and resistance level. You can clearly see it here. So it formed the start of this downwards movement, and then it became support over here, and now it's testing it again. So now we have to wait to see. We have to wait for more confirmations. On the 1 hourly, I want to see that it's going to at least gain this high. And why? Well, because this is a very clear defined supply zone. So there's a supply zone over here. It's very likely to be respected. So you want to see that it's first going to gain this supply zone, and then you can be positive for long trades. Because keep in mind, the structure is still going down. You rejected on the higher time frame here. The structure on the 1 hour is going down. So you want to... Most people will be positive when you form something like this. So when you gain this high, they will be positive. But I will not be positive, because you have all this way to go. So you still have to go all the way up here before you can really be positive. So before I would actually look for a long trade, I first want to gain this level. All right. Well, on the 1 hour, you could place this as a possible short. However, the same goes for the opposite side. So if you want to place this short, first wait for this level to be lost. So first lose this level, then place the trade, because then it's way more certain to be a good trade. Because now it's very unlikely, you don't really have the confirmation that you're looking for. It's really likely to be respected as a level, But if it's going to be a good trade, well, then you first want to lose this level, and then you're going up. You can place the trade and take a lot of profit, probably. Yeah, the risk reward of my best trade, it was kind of an accident, actually, but it's not way too high. It was something like 40% or something. So like 40%. And that's really high for my strategy. It's normal for my strategy to have something like 4% profit, or like a 4 risk reward. And this was a risk reward of 14 actually, 14, because otherwise it's 40. Yeah, so it was a very good trade. But it was accidentally because I did not place my take profits. Now I use a system called Trade Assistant. So Trade Assistant is something that automatically places your take profits. But before that, I did not have it. So I had to place it manually, and I forgot to place my take profits. So I had way too much profit. So when I saw that I was 14% in profit, I just closed the whole position. And yeah, it's one of my biggest trades so far. All right. Let's see on the 50 minutes if we can see anything interesting. It's probably going to respond to this demand zone over here. And you can refine this supply zone to here actually, like this. But it's exactly the same story here. So you first want to see that you're either gaining this level or losing this level before you place a trade. That's just my opinion. I want to have the extra confirmation before I place a trade. Okay, so not too interesting now on gold. Let's go to Bitcoin. And by the way, like I said in the beginning, let me know in the comments if you're watching this later, if you want me to analyze specific pairings or crypto or Forex, because then I can do it in the next stream. So again, like start on the higher time frame. Every single time when you make your analysis, start on the higher time frame. Even if it's the second time you're analyzing it on the same day, still start at the higher time frame, because otherwise you will just forget what's going on the higher time frame. Yeah, so what you can see here is this is more like an order flow actually. So it's touching this order flow, which is basically a supply zone based on multiple candles. So you're touching this, you can see the rejection of the level. And you can even see it on the daily, that on the daily you also lost your low. So you also create this downward structure as well. And that's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. That doesn't look strong to me. Again, it's almost exactly the same story as with gold. You're rejecting it on the higher time frame. However, there's still this demand zone and this demand zone, which are very likely to be respected. So the price can still look for the liquidity over here, and then go up. So it's almost the exact same thing as on gold, by the way. I can draw them in for you. So this is what you're going to be looking at. And for now, it's just waiting for this zone, this level to be gained. And well, I'm fairly positive. I think Bitcoin is looking very strong right now. Although this is a very important level, as you can see as well over here. So what you can see here is this formed the kind of demand area that brought you all the way to a new all-time high. So it's a point that brought you to a new all-time high. Then later on, it became lots of support over here. And it became the starting point of this movement to a new all-time high again. So it formed a new all-time high twice. And that indicates a very strong zone. So now, we really need to gain this level. Before we can be really positive, we need to gain this level. However, if we are able to gain this level like this, well, then we can be really positive. So then we can be really positive, in my opinion. Then the next thing we're looking at is this zone over here and this zone over here. But then we're talking about like, then it's already going up. Yeah, like if it goes till here, it's already almost 70%. So Bitcoin is looking very positive if it can gain this level, because it's also possible that it's going to reject. I think the sentiment on Bitcoin is pretty positive as well. You hear lots of people talk about crypto again. You can see it everywhere on YouTube. Like, I think the sentiment is pretty good. I think Bitcoin is looking very strong. However, it needs to gain this. If it doesn't gain this, it's also possible that we will be ranging over here for a long time. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be rejecting and going down to all the way here. It would be more likely that it's going to gain this level or be ranging here for a while. Okay, let's look at the 1 hour. So what it is with Bitcoin, most of the zones are already tested. So for example, you had a pretty good entry here. Entry like in this zone, you could place an entry. Most of them are already tested, so you're too late. And now you're in a very low volume kind of compression. And compression means that the price is going very, very narrowly in one place. And then it will probably shoot upwards or downwards. So you don't want to trade in compression. You first want to wait for a breakout of the compression. So for example, like this, then look for a long trade, or downwards and then look for a short. Although I see this zone, and this is the 50 minutes, by the way. I see this demand zone over here. Let's see. Yeah, it's a very interesting zone. However, I would definitely not place a trade here, because again, you're rejecting here. You have the supply zone over here being respected. You're in compression. So if you place a trade here, like a lot of people are probably placing their trades here, well, you will probably be stopped out. And the question is also, like, where do you place your stop loss? Because are you going to place your stop loss all the way here under the wick? Well, then your whole risk reward is just gone. And there's a supply zone here, by the way. But it's the same story for the supply zone. I wouldn't place a trade right now on Bitcoin. If we're talking about day trading specifically, I would not place any day trades here. I would just wait for breaking out of this compression, and then you can look for a trade. So it's also because it's almost a weekend. Lots of times it's very boring then. There's a lot of compression. Bitcoin is also open in the weekends, obviously. Forex, for example, is closed in the weekends. But Bitcoin in the weekends is so extremely boring. Like, I used to trade in the weekends on Bitcoin, and it was so boring. And there was nothing going on. It's just compression and low volume. So I guess we have to wait till next week and then see in the live stream if there are any good opportunities. It looks like it's breaking out of this compression right now, but we'll be sure in the next couple of days, so we won't know it for now. So yeah, this was the stream for today. We'll be back on Monday. We'll be streaming every single weekday, so subscribe to see all the streams. And leave a comment if you have any questions, if you want to see something in the next live stream, if you have any feedback, it's all welcome. So please leave a comment and a like, and thank you for watching this stream. And I will see you guys on Monday.